Guys, IG Squad here, and welcome back to the 2023 IG Squad Summer Vlogs. This is week 10, which is wild, and we're just starting July. Yeah, a lot's going on. So, we've got a week coming up, an interesting one. So, let's go and get to it. Alright, so we just had family here over this past weekend. We've been, they all just left. Most of them left early this morning. Then all just rolled out. Everyone just rolled out about like an hour ago. So, yeah. So now it's time to get back to business and work. So also this past weekend was NHL free agency, and of course I'm going to be doing reporting on that. I am going to be actually doing in and out of every team, who's in, who's out, and give each team a grade. You guys will see that. I'm going to record that tomorrow, so you guys will see that. I'm just making all the charts and everything for that. So yeah, we're just going to do that now, and then we are going to, and then probably just going to be pretty chill. Also, new week, new phone we are recording on. I'm going to be recording this entire video on my Moto G5S Plus. I know the last Moto we recorded on was absolutely terrible, but honestly, this one doesn't look too bad. I'm still scared about the audio quality because the other two Motos I recorded on were kind of trash, but we'll see how this goes. So, yeah. And next phone diving adventure should be coming up this weekend, but that's a little ways away. But anyways, that's all I've got. So, let's go and get into it. Alright, so it's the next day, and take a look at that. That is in the stock software update menu. So I checked it, and there it is. We can finally test out iOS 17. So let's do it. Let's get the iOS 17 beta installed. I'm excited for this. No, not first. Alright, well, I'll be back once it's actually downloaded. Alright, so as you saw from the last clip, I did get the iOS 17 beta up and running on my iPhone XR. I'm gonna be testing it out over this first week, and I'm going to be actually showing, giving my impressions of it in next week's vlog. So just wait for that, because we have the free agency stuff to talk about. I'm probably not gonna record that right now, actually, because I'm still trying to, put all that together, trying to just have it done. Probably gonna record that in a couple days. Maybe I'll put it in right here. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But yeah, just sort of still trying to figure that out. It's gonna be a long segment, but compilation seems to be the theme of this year's summer vlogs. I don't really know why, but yeah, it seems to be that way. But yeah, I'm just editing last week's vlog right now. Gotta get that up tomorrow, so should be all good. I swear to God, I thought this dude retired like 5 years ago. I remember when he was a Penguin, and he's still playing and just got signed by the Dallas Stars. What? How are you still alive, dude? Wow. Alright, so didn't get a ton of work done on the blog, but I think I got enough done to the point where I can work on it tonight and tomorrow and get it up on time. So, it should be all good. Right now, we're actually about to head out and go see the new Jennifer Lawrence movie, No Hard Feelings. I'm really excited to see that, because it just looks like it has no filter. So, yeah, we're gonna go check that out. Hoping it's good, and yeah, I'll tell you how it goes. Alright, so it's the next day. Kind of just been working slowly on getting the week 9 vlog ready and done. It's already 1 o'clock, and I'm only like probably about halfway done with it, so I got a lot of shit to do. And I was gonna say it looked like we were back to staying inside because the air quality looked like it was kind of eating it again, but it went down again. Wildfire smoke. Gotta love it. Anyways, I'm gonna keep working on this and try and get it done today. Alright, so it's the next day. Yes, that was the only clip I recorded yesterday, but I did get the video up. It is good to go. So now I have to record everything in free agency. And yeah, grade all 32 teams. So yeah, we got a little bit of a busy morning ahead of us. What time is it right now? Actually, it's 11:28, so not too bad. But yeah, this is probably going to take me about 40 minutes, maybe an hour. So let's just get this done so I have it ready to go for this vlog. I'm not going to record on this phone because I need storage for this for these clips. So going to record on the iPhone XR. That's the other phone you're seeing this off of. Yeah. Also, this audio on this phone sounds pretty bad, so yeah, we're not going to do that. So let's talk some free agency, because this is crazy. All right, so we got a lot to talk about. We're going to go by division, and we're going to start with the Metro Division. So let's start with the Carolina Hurricanes. So they did some things. So free agency day, they started out by re-signing both Freddie Andersen and Antti Raanta. Freddie Andersen's deal is $3.4 million for the next 2 years. Antti Raanta is $1.5 million for only 1 year. Honestly, I think Freddie Andersen's maybe a slight overpayment. I probably would have done $3 million even. But honestly, both of those, for having, along with Pyotr Kochetkov, having a goaltending trio with that is at value under $10 million, definitely under $10 million, but I think somewhere I saw it's under like $8 million. Honestly, that's not bad. Like, you can't get a much better value goaltending trio than what the Hurricanes have right now. Yes, Raanta and Andersen are both getting older, but only having Raanta for 1 year is probably perfect, because then you can either move on or just retire or stay with the Hurricanes. Who knows? And then Andersen for 2 more years. He'll be, 36 at the end of that term? 37? I don't know. That's not bad either. So, honestly, both of the goaltending deals, not so bad. And then their splash deals, they first started by signing Dmitry Orlov to a 2-year, $7.75 million deal. That is, in my mind, a huge overpayment, but I think a lot of people would probably disagree with me. But 2 years, $7.75 million per year. That is insane. Yes, I know Orlov's a pretty good defenseman, but he's also 31 years old, so I would never have paid that much. I probably would have given $4 million per. That's a lot. And then their other big deal was signing Michael Bunting to a 3-year deal, $4.5 million per. That's not bad, but I probably would have done $3.5 million, but whatever. I'm not the one choosing the deals, so yeah, Bunting $4.5 million. That's not bad. I think if you want to get more physical guys, Bunting's one of those people to get on the free agent market, so not a terrible pickup. So they solved all of their free agent problems. They also had to re-sign Jordan Staal, which they did a couple days prior to free agency opening up. They signed him to a ridiculous contract. 4 years for Jordan Staal. For a dude who's already 34 years old, he's going to be 38 at the end of that term. That is insane. But the value is not bad. $2.9 million for 4 years. But yeah, the term is too long, but $2.9 million for your captain is not bad. So overall, the Hurricanes, besides the Orlov and Bunting deals, they didn't make a huge splash, but they definitely did enough to still consider them to be a contender. I'm going to give them an A-. They didn't do too bad. But if you think their free agency list was long this year, it's going to get just as bad next year. Sebastian Aho, Teuvo Teravainen, Marty Necas, Jordan Martinook, Jack Drury, Seth Jarvis, Ryan Suzuki, Stefan Nason, Brady Shea, Brett Pesci, Dylan Coughlin, Jalen Chatfield, and Antti Ranta. You have fun with that. All right, next let's talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets, who didn't do a lot. Probably learned that going for high-profile players after last year is not good to do when you're in a rebuild. But, yeah, so the first thing they did is they signed Adam Fantilli to his entry-level contract. He's the first player out of the draft to get his entry-level contract. Good to see. Hopefully he'll be playing day one. And then I didn't really see much of what they did outside of the Fantilli deal. So obviously last month they had the sign and trade for Damon Severson, which I think, for a defenseman to help their decor a little bit, that's honestly not that bad. But outside of that, they really didn't do much. So the Adam Fantilli deal, I don't see anything of what they did on deadline day besides that. So, I mean, they probably don't have to do much. Fantilli's part of that rebuild, but I'm going to give them a C because they still have something to figure out. They still need to figure out what's going on with Tim Burney. He is unavailable to file for arbitration. Are they going to trade him? What are they going to do? So, yeah. Also, they lost a couple of players. They lost Lane Peterson. And who else did they lose? I'm not sure. But, yeah, Lane Peterson's the big one that I can name that they lost. Obviously, they lost Voracek at the trade deadline. Yeah. We'll see how this year goes for the Blue Jackets. I'm not hopeful, though. The New Jersey Devils. Oh, they are going to be good. So before deadline day, they re-signed Timo Meier to an 8-year extension, $8.8 million. Beautiful. Meier is going to be great for this team going forward. At his age, he's going to be electric. And they also traded for Tyler Toffoli, and all they gave up was Yegor Sharangovich and I think a 3rd-round pick. So honestly, I believe that the Devils' top 6 it's easily going to be top 5. I don't think anybody can really argue with that, but I actually think this Devils' top 6 is going to be the best in the NHL. And I hate to say that as a Penguins fan because we play them, well, actually only 3 times this year, but on average, we play them 4 times a year, so yeah. This is going to be a fun team to watch, but brutal for anybody that hates them. I am so sorry for all Rangers fans out there. But outside of that, I mean, the notable player they really lost is Miles Wood, who's not a huge deal. I mean, the Colorado Avalanche overpaid the shit out of him. Also, they lost Ryan Graves to who? The Pittsburgh Penguins, who probably a lot of people would say they overpaid the shit out of, but I really don't think so. I think Ryan Graves is going to be a good top pair, middle pair defenseman now that Brian Dumoulin's gone for the Penguins, but we'll talk about that once we get to the Penguins a little later. But in terms of what the Devils actually did, they signed Michael McLeod to a 1-year, $1.4 million deal. That's good. Re-signed Nathan Bastian to a 2-year, $1.35 million per year deal. Not too bad. And then it was just a couple of minor league players, so they signed Kyle Criscuolo, Josh Dowling, and also goaltender Eric Shalgren, who was with the Leafs last year. All $775,000 contracts, 1 year, and they are all 2-way contracts. So the Devils, because of the Toffoli and Meier deals, they didn't really have to do a lot, and I think they're still going to be a really good team. So not making a huge splash on free agency and not losing a lot, I'm going to give them an A. I think they did really, really well. New York Islanders. Oh my God, what is Lou Lamoriello doing? Somebody take away his credit card. So, the New York Islanders, they didn't make a huge splash on depth. Well, actually, that's a lie. But with players that were not previously theirs, They did not make a huge splash, but they did re-sign some guys, and to some probably some people, including me, would call ridiculous contracts. So they started off the day re-signing Pierre Engvall to a 7-year deal, $3 million per, which is not bad, but 7 years for Pierre Engvall, who is not going to crack out of the bottom six, most likely. What? The next deal, they re-signed Ilya Sorokin. That won't start until next year, but that is 8 years, $8.25 million per year. That one I like because Ilya Sorokin is a top 5 goaltender in the league. That can't be argued. And then they also re-signed Scott Mayfield to another 7-year deal, $3.5 million per. Okay. I mean, you have a 30-year-old defenseman re-signed to a 7-year deal. That is, wow. And they also signed Semyon Varlamov to a 4-year, $2.75 million deal. This was a lot like the Jordan Staal deal. The value is not bad, but 4 years for a goaltender who's already 35 years old? What? So those are kind of ridiculous. Outside of that, it was just a couple of bottom pairing or bottom end wingers and a couple of minor leaguers. So their only outsider only NHL level player is they signed Julien Gauthier to a 2-year $787,500 deal per year. Fourth line right winger, that's not bad. So you can flip him at the trade deadline if you want, if he's not working out for you. That's fine. And then minor league players, they signed Carson Kuhlman to a 1-year $775,000 deal. Same with center Brian Pino. Okay. So I like the Sorokin deal. I think the Gauthier deal is going to be pretty decent, but Varlamov, Mayfield, and Engvall deals, I can't stand, especially that Varlamov deal. What the fuck is that, Lou? So because of those deals, I'm gonna give them a C plus. I know it sounds like a kind of a grade, but yeah, I don't get what Lou was cooking up with those deals. Yeah. That is very weird. Also, Engvall just got there. Why are you giving him a 7-year deal? Yes, he's 27 years old, but you got him at the trade deadline. He hasn't been there for like 8 years already. My brain hurts. The New York Rangers, they were busy. So, obviously, to start the day, they got steals of the deals. They signed Blake Wheeler to a 1-year $800,000 contract and Jonathan Quick to a 1-year $825,000 contract. To sign players that high profile for that, like, honestly, I believe they robbed both of them. As much as I hate Blake Wheeler, I definitely think they got robbed. So I like what the Rangers did there, getting those players. Yes, I know Blake Wheeler's 37 years old, 36. Jonathan Quick is 37 years old, so maybe this could cap off their careers. Who knows? But yeah, not bad. And then couple of minor league players. They signed Alex Belzile and Riley Nash. They also signed Tyler Pitlick and Connor Mackey, Nicholas Brulard. They signed Nick Bonino to it's just a bunch of 1-year deals. Well, actually, Nash and Belzile are 2-year deals. One-way first year, 2-way deal second year. So that's not too bad. And they signed Eric Gustafson to a 1-year $825,000 deal. So the Rangers were definitely busy, but I think got all the necessary parts. Now, do they have any major UFAs is the question. So they didn't address some of their biggest concerns in terms of free agents, which they still haven't re-signed Alexis Lafreniere or Keandre Miller. Why? Are you letting them go or not? They're both RFAs, so they're both still in your system. neither of them can file for arbitration. So what exactly is Chris Drury trying to do here? I'd like an explanation. So because of that, I don't like that they're kind of, focusing towards getting a bunch of new guys and not re-signing two people who have been in their system their whole careers, even though their careers are still young. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm going to give the Rangers a B-, because I like what they did with the Wheeler and Quick deals, and also a bunch of the other deals. Not Riley Nash, I like that deal. Gustafson, I like that deal. But the Philadelphia Flyers, what are they cooking up? Apparently not re-signing their RFAs because they need to re-sign Noah Cates, Morgan Frost, and Cam York. So, that's not so great. But they did get some players. Are they trying to break the playoff drought this year? I don't think so. I like their draft choice, Michkov. That is steal of a pick to get at 7th overall. I honestly had him going 5th or 4th even. That's not bad. So in terms of what they did, they started off today. They signed Ryan Poehling to a 1-year, $1.4 million deal. We're going to miss you here in Pittsburgh, my friend. Even though you were hurt more than half the season, you are fast as fuck and you can score shorthanded goals. So we're going to miss that. They also, I probably consider to be their biggest splash deal for agency is they signed Garnet Hathaway to a 2-year, $2.38 million per deal per year. Honestly, that's not bad. Maybe a slight overpayment for someone like Hathaway, but he's probably going to play in their top 6 if I'm being honest, because what depth do they have, or what guys in their top 6 can they really play besides Cam Atkinson, who was out for the whole season last season? Who knows if he's even going to be ready to start the season? He probably is, but we don't even know. And then they also signed Mark Stahl to a 1-year, $1.1 million deal. That's a steal to get for someone like Mark Stahl, who, yes, he's 36 years old, but that is not bad. And they signed Victor Mete to a 2-way contract. And then just a couple of other minor leaguers, Ronnie Attard and Rhett Gardner. So I think the Flyers did enough, but they still have to figure out those RFAs, and those are significant names on the board. And Noah Cates has already filed for arbitration, so they got to figure out what's going on with that. So I'm going to give the Flyers a B, because they did get some solid players, and I think they're going to be better this year, but they're still going to be the Flyers. The Pittsburgh Penguins. Wait, hold on. The Pittsburgh Penguins. Just need everybody to know that I'm a fan. Anyways, Kyle Dubas was cooking. It didn't feel like it for a while, but then he really set off. So pretty quiet day to start free agency. They started out the day by signing Matt Nieto to a 2-year, $900,000 per year contract. Honestly, that's not bad. 4th line left winger. If Drew O'Connor gets set free, which he still hasn't been re-signed for whatever reason, that's an okay replacement. It's not going to make the team younger in any way, but that's not bad. And then after what it felt like was we were losing everybody, losing Jason Zucker, Brian Dumoulin, Nick Bonino, Josh Archibald. Yeah, kind of felt like we were losing everybody, but then Dubas started cooking. So they signed Noel Acciari to a 3-year, $2 million per year deal. I love that deal. I think Acciari as a 4th line center, when you need him to be a 3rd line center at points, is going to be amazing. I am super into that deal. But then the one that is the most controversial, they re-signed Tristan Jarry to a 5-year, $5.38 million deal for a guy that is either the worst player on the ice last season or is hurt more than half the time. I hate that deal. I think that is way too much money for someone like him, I would have done like a 2-year, maybe 3-year deal at the max, but 5 years. Dubas has to be committed to him, to using him as a starter. Oof. And then it got kind of interesting. They signed goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic. They lost Dustin Tokarski, who, that's fine. He was terrible outside of the one game against Vancouver. So they signed Alex Nedeljkovic. Honestly, if Casey DeSmith ends up getting traded for, who knows, maybe Erik Karlsson, we still don't know what's going on with that. As a backup, Nedeljkovic actually might not be too bad. I don't hate that. And then probably their biggest deal of the day, they signed defenseman Ryan Graves to a 6-year, $4.5 million contract. I like him in the organization, but 6 years for a guy that has not been in your system before is a shitload of a term. So I don't know how to feel about that. I probably would have done 3 years, maybe 4 at the max. 4.5 for Ryan Graves is probably considered to be a lot to most people. I don't hate the term, considering it's 6 years. That's $27 million in total is a lot, but honestly, 4.5 for who's probably going to be a top or second pair defenseman is not that bad. And then they signed Lars Eller, the former Capital himself, to a 2-year, $2.45 million deal. Overpayment up the ass. $2.45 million per year to a guy who is 34 years old, who is a former Capital. Excuse me? What was Dubas cooking up on that? I'd like a little bit of an explanation. But other than that, they signed a couple of minor leaguers. They signed Ryan Shea. They signed Will Butcher. They also signed Magnus Hellberg to potentially be a 3rd or 4th stringer. So 2 Detroit goalies, not that bad, but we'll see how that goes. Yeah, I'm not really sure. It's a mixed range of everything. As far as UFA goes, they still haven't re-signed Danton Heinen. I would imagine he's probably not going to be picked up by any team. So maybe they don't re-sign Drew O'Connor, but I wouldn't see that happening. I don't know what's going on. So they're going to have to figure that out. But overall, I like some of the deals. I love the Noel Acciari deal, but the Tristan Jarry deal is kind of killing it for me a little bit. I'm going to give the Penguins a B, because obviously they were active, but not in all the right ways. So yeah, B for me for the Pittsburgh Penguins. God, it's hot. I think it's like 90 degrees outside. I was dying in that. And finally, for the Metro Division, we have the Washington Capitals. So, it doesn't look like they really had to do too much in terms of deadline day, in terms of re-signing people. They had re-signed Dylan Strome a while ago. They still had Rasmus Sandin on an extra year. So doesn't look like they really had to do too much. They also re-signed Sonny Milano a while back as well. In terms of what they did on deadline day, they signed a minor league goaltender, and they also signed Max Pacioretty, who is still listed on IR. So if his contract at $2 million is buried for a whole nother season, that's going to be bad. But I don't really see that happening. I don't really know what's going on with that. So yeah, I don't hate the Pacioretty deal because it's $2 million for a guy who was a former captain with a team, who, no, he hasn't won a Stanley Cup, but who was a former captain with the Montreal Canadiens. That is not bad. Yes, it's only 1 year, and Pacioretty is 34 years old, so they didn't do something stupid like they did with like Carolina did with the Jordan Staal deal. So I don't hate it. And then they really just signed a bunch of minor leaguers, and they re-signed Martin Fehérváry to a 3-year, $2.7 million contract. Honestly, that's not bad. Fehérváry he's probably going to elevate his way up over time, especially with the Capitals' decor being on the older side mostly, with John Carlson, Nick Jensen, and Trevor Van Riemsdyk. I don't hate that at all. So, yeah, and also on deadline day, they acquired Joel Edmondson from the Canadiens for not very much. So, I don't hate that move either. So, we'll see how all that goes. But because the Capitals, they didn't really make a huge splash. They didn't do anything that's going to make them all that much younger. Yes, Dylan Strome and Martin Fehervary are going to make them younger, but they didn't do a whole lot. I'm going to give them a C+, because you better hope Pacioretty is good in time for the season to start and that he doesn't get hurt again, because you got to remember he tore his Achilles before last season started and then tore the same one again. That's a problem to look out for. So, yeah, you better hope that it that goes according to plan, because that's going to sound bad. All right, let's move on to the Atlantic Division, which means we're going to start with the Boston Bruins. So they did some things. They started out the day, they signed James Van Riemsdyk to a 1-year, $1 million deal. I like that because JVR is pretty solid. Going to be solid for the bottom six as a left wing. I like that. And then the big story, Milan Lucic is back in Boston. Is this going to be the cap for his career? Who knows? It could be. He could want to retire a Bruin. Obviously, he won a Stanley Cup there back in 2011. So who knows what's going to happen with that. And they also signed Morgan Geekie to a 2-year, $2 million per year contract. I like that signing as well. And Lucic, 1 year, $1 million. To get him at that value, yes, he's not going to generate a ton of offense, but he is physical as hell, even at 35 years old. I like that. And Geekie at 24 years old, still getting into that lower contract. If he pans out well for this team, he could be looking at a 6 or 7 year deal. So I like that for the potential future of the Boston Bruins. Outside of that, they signed Kevin Shattenkirk to a 1-year, $1 million deal. They signed Patrick Brown to a 2-year, $800,000 deal. And then it was just a bunch of minor league contracts, Parker Wotherspoon, Anthony Richard. They re-signed Jacob Lauko, and they signed Kyle Kaiser. They didn't really have to do too much. Obviously, they were the best team in NHL history last season. They do still have some RFAs to re-sign, including Trent Frederick and Ian Mitchell, who they traded for. They also traded Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno. That's a bit of a shakeup, but I honestly don't hate what the Bruins are doing. They just got to figure out those RFAs, so I'm going to give them an A-. I don't really have many complaints outside of the RFAs. The Buffalo Sabres, are they ready to go back to the playoffs? I'm actually starting to think so. They have a solid core, and they did some things on deadline day. So they signed Eric Johnson to a 1-year, $3.25 million deal for a guy that was so loyal to Colorado. Honestly, that's not bad. Yes, Johnson is 35 years old, but for 1 year, may seem like an overpayment, but I don't hate it. And they also re-signed Tyson Jost, 1 year, $2 million. Maybe a slight overpayment. Maybe some people probably would have done 1.5. But I don't hate that. But what I do think is an overpayment is they signed Connor Clifton to a 3-year, $3.3 million deal for a guy that is not going to be in the top pair of defensemen. Yes, I know I probably should be shitting on the Ryan Graves contract if I'm shitting on this, but that is not great. And then it was really just a bunch of minor league berries. So they got Dustin Tokarski back. They signed Devin Cooley, Justin Richards, and Cale Clegg. The Sabres really did all they needed to do. So now what their focus needs to be is get the Rasmus Dahlin extension done before next season. They got to get it going. 8 years, $10 million for a guy that is going to be a top 5 defenseman in the years to come. Some people may already consider him to be. So, yeah, just got to figure that out. Because of the Clifton deal, I'm not liking that too much. B. I don't hate what the Sabres did, but I think they are really in win now mode. And, yeah. Are they getting there or not? That's the question. The Detroit Red Wings, the Yzer plan strikes again. So, the Detroit Red Wings, they still have some stuff to do. They still need to re-sign Joe Veleno, who, yeah, they probably should re-sign him to a 3-year deal, because he is a good third liner, fourth liner. Just saying. Probably should figure that out. But they did a lot in free agency. So, of course, they traded for both Klim Kostin and Kyler Yamamoto from Edmonton. They let Kyler Yamamoto walk, but they did sign Klim Kostin to a 2-year, $2 million per year deal. I like that. I think, bottom line left winger. I don't hate that. They re-signed Gustav Lindstrom to a 1-year, $950,000 deal. Don't hate that either. 2-way deal. They signed Matt Luff to a 1-year, $775,000 deal. But then once free agency opened, they got busy. So obviously they lost both Nedeljkovic and Magnus Hellberg. So their solution is James Reimer. I don't know how I feel about that, but they signed James Reimer to a 1-year, $1.5 million deal. Honestly, for Reimer, who has been a good quality starting goaltender in the past, not the past 2-3 years, but in the past, that's not that bad. I don't hate it. But then the deal that everybody and their mother is questioning is Justin Hall. 3 years, $3.4 million for a guy that has no offense and is not a great defensive mind either. That is a shitload of money for someone like that. But what I do think is a better goaltending deal is they sign Alex Lyon to a 2-year, $900,000 deal. Yes, he just had a breakout season, but at that value, to be your backup likely over Reimer, I'm into that. I like that. Outside of that, they signed Daniel Sprong to a 1-year, $2 million deal. He's only 26 years old, believe it or not. I don't hate that at all. And they signed JT Compher to what probably some people would consider an overpayment. 5 years, $5.1 million. I honestly don't hate that. Compher is decent on the third line. He could be on the second line if he needed to be. And they signed Shane Gostisbehere to a 1-year, $4.13 million deal. That, in my mind, is an overpayment. Yes, Gostisbehere is a decent offensive defenseman, but I don't know about that one. And the day after the deadline day opening, they signed Christian Fischer to a 1-year, $1.25 million deal. I don't hate that at all. Fourth line, right wing. That's good enough for me. So, yeah, the Red Wings did a lot. But I think if the Red Wings don't make the playoffs, I think Yzerman's gone. I'm sorry to say it, but that's a lot to bank on in free agency. So we'll see how these guys pan out. The Red Wings got to make the playoffs. The Florida Panthers, they go to the finals. They lose in the finals. What has Bill Zito cooked up? I think enough to consider him to still be a Jim Gregory finalist. So they signed a bunch of defensemen. They signed Oliver Ekman-Larsson is the big one. 1 year, $2.25 million. Ekman-Larsson, 4 years ago, we were considering to be a top 5 defenseman. He was incredible. But then as soon as he gets to Vancouver, he falls right the off. So I don't know about that deal. I haven't seen Ekman-Larsson play enough to really judge it that well. They also signed Mike Riley to a 1-year, $1 million deal. I like that. Bottom pair defenseman. That's perfect. They also signed Nico Mikkola to a 3-year, $2.5 million deal. Maybe an overpayment, but I honestly don't know. bottom pair of Riley and Mikkola. I don't hate it, but then they signed Lucas Carlson to a 2-way, 1 year, $775,000 deal. That's good. Then a questionable one, they signed Dmitry Kulikov, who they drafted back in 2009, 1 year, $1 million. The term isn't bad, but people are saying that he was a total waste of a draft pick. He was with the Penguins at he got traded to the Penguins at the trade deadline. He was useless. He got hurt 3 games into being traded to the Penguins. So bury him in the minors, maybe? I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. Maybe put him on waivers. It's 1 year, $1 million. That's enough term you can afford to lose. But outside of that, they signed Kevin Stenlund to a 1 year, $1 million deal. Grigory Denisenko, 2 years, $775,000. And they assigned a goaltender to replace Alex Lyon, and that is Anthony Stolarz. I don't hate the move, but 1 year, $1.1 million. I don't hate the term either, but if I remember correctly, Stolarz is always hurt. So that's a bit confusing to me. I'm not really sure. But the Panthers' big move outside of deadline day is they signed Evan Rodriguez to a 4-year, $3 million per year deal. I actually really like that. Rodriguez consistently can get you 15 to 20 goals per season as a guy who can easily play in the top on that top line. If Tkachuk is out to start the season, he can easily come in. So I don't hate that. But for a guy that likely for most of the time is going to be playing on the second or third line even, that is a good pickup. I like that. Rodriguez finally gets his bag. I feel great saying that as a Penguins fan. That's awesome. So do the Panthers have any UFAs or RFAs to still re-sign? Doesn't really look like it. So, yeah, I think the Panthers are in good shape. And is Bill Zito cooking again to go back to the finals? Who knows? The Montreal Canadiens. They are well into this rebuild. They are trying to get closer to be getting out of it. What did they do at deadline day to help that? Nothing. They did basically nothing. They signed Brady Keeper and Philip Millet to what I assume are minor league contracts. They did absolutely nothing on deadline day. So, yeah. Their only move outside of signing Cole Caulfield well over a month ago and Sean Monahan well over 3 weeks ago is they re-signed Raphael Harvey-Pinard. I like that. That's good to see. 2 years, $1.1 million, but they did not do a lot at deadline day. I'm not saying that they had to do a lot, but they probably should have done more than sign 2 minor leaguers. So because of their lack of moves on deadline day, I'm going to give them a D+. Yeah. The Cole Caulfield move helps that out a lot. Keeping him for 8 years is good, but they probably should have done something. They probably should have tried to go out and get a backup goaltender, because banking on Jake Allen at this point in his career is not smart. I think Montembeault is probably your starter going forward. Who knows if Carey Price is even going to play again? Probably not in terms of my eye. Yeah, D+. I don't love what the Canadiens did. The Ottawa Senators. Are they making it back to the playoffs? With what they did, they actually might. So, to start the day before deadline time rolled around, they re-signed Eric Brandstrom and Jacob Bernard-Docker. 1 year, $2 million for Eric Brandstrom. 2 years, $805,000 for Jacob Bernard-Docker. I like those moves. I'm into them. And then, once deadline time rolled around, the big signing happened. They might have finally addressed their goaltending problem. They have signed Jonas Korpisalo to a 5-year, $4 million per year contract. I like the value. I probably wouldn't have gone with that long of a term to start. Probably would have done a 3-year deal, but you know what? Korpisalo got a bag, and he is a lot better of a goaltender than a lot of people think because he was on a bunch of Columbus teams. So we'll see how this goes. But I'm into the Korpisalo signing. I think obviously he's going to be better than Cam Talbot. Probably going to be better than Matt Murray because he's not going to be hurt 24/7. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Outside of that, they really just signed a bunch of minor league contracts. But I personally like the Korpisalo signing. And then 2 days ago, they re-signed Travis Hamonic to a 2-year, $1.1 million deal. Good enough. Hamonic's 32, so that could be the end for him. Who knows? So yeah, I think the Senators did enough. We'll see how Korpisalo works out, but I've got high hopes for him. So I'm going to give the Senators a B, maybe a B+. I don't know. It's hard to grade them because they didn't do a lot outside of the Korpisalo signing, but Korpisalo, I think, is a good goalie to bank on over Cam Talbot or even Anton Forsberg. The Tampa Bay Lightning, Alex Killorn and Corey Perry are no longer Lightning members, so what did they do on deadline day besides lose those guys? They did some stuff. So they started out, they signed Connor Sherry to a 3-year, $2 million deal. I'm into that. Sherry's a former Penguin, so I like that. And speaking of Penguins, they also signed Josh Archibald to a 2-year, $800,000 deal. That's good. Archibald's 30 years old. That's solid value for him. Yes, he does have injury problems, but that is more than enough. And they also signed Luke Glendening to the same value contract like that. And backup goaltender, because Brian Elliott is terrible. They signed Jonas Johansson to a 2-year, $775,000. Use him as your backup. I am begging you, for the love of God. Brian Elliott is one of the worst goaltenders in the entire league. Backup or starter, I don't care. He's 38 years old and he sucks. Bury his cap. Buy him out. I don't even know if he's a free agent or not. Brian Elliott, at this point in his career, is absolutely useless. So use Jonas Johansson as your backup goaltender. And then they really just signed a bunch of minor league contracts, and then the day after, they signed Calvin DeHaan to a 1-year, $775,000 contract. Who knows if they're going to bury him in the minors or what? I don't know. I think the Lightning did enough. I like the Sherry deal. Yes, letting Killorn and Corey Perry go, it hurts. They also let Ian Cole go as well. So it's going to be a little bit of a transition for them, but they still have their core of Stamkos, Kucherov, and Hedman. So I don't think they're going to be all that much different. The Lightning are still going to make the playoffs. They're probably still going to be the same seed, to be honest, just losing those guys. So I'm going to give them a B+, because yes, again, losing Killorn and Corey Perry hurts and is going to be a shakeup, but I don't think it's going to minimize their playoff chances that much. The Toronto Maple Leafs. What did Brad Treliving do? I'd say some interesting things. So they started out the day. It was already confirmed before deadline day, but they officially signed Ryan Reeves to a 3-year, $1.35 million contract. I actually really like that because, yes, Reeves doesn't generate a ton of offense, but he is physical as hell. So I love that for them. I think that's going to work out, honestly, so well. So I'm into that signing. And they also signed John Klingberg to a 1-year, $4.15 million contract. That is a hell of an overpayment for a guy who, yes, is a good offensive defenseman, but is not that great of a defensive defenseman. So I'm not really sure about that. But then their deals that everybody wants to hear about happened the day after deadline day. They signed Tyler Bertuzzi to a 1-year, $5 million contract. Damn. Was not expecting Bertuzzi to go to the Leafs at all because he was with the Bruins. I actually expected him to re-sign with the Bruins more, nonetheless. So that's all kinds of interesting. And then after that, not too long, they signed Max Domi to a 1-year, $3 million deal. I actually like that move a lot. Domi, who knows if he's going to be used for trade bait again, because that seems to be a pattern with Max Domi. He signs with a team, then gets traded. That happened 2 years ago. He was with, who was he with? I think he was still with Columbus. Gets traded to Carolina at the deadline, signs the next year with Chicago, gets traded to Dallas at the deadline. So can Max Domi finally stay in one place, or is he going to be used as trade bait again at the deadline? Who the hell knows? We'll see what happens. All right, so it's the next day. Shot all the free agency stuff, as you can tell. That's basically all I recorded yesterday, besides yesterday's intro clip or whatever. I don't know. So today should be a pretty chill day. I'm probably going to hit the university bin in a little bit. We are recording the next episode of Phone Diving Adventures starting this weekend. And I'm going to include that. So I'm going to start recording that in probably an hour. Get that going and just drop up some batteries, because I'm not going to find anything because that bin is garbage. But we'll go over there. I'm recording on the last thing I found at that university bin. I'm not going to find anything because that bin is trash. Anyways, so shockingly, I left the vlog hanging. Are you even surprised? It is still the same day, believe it or not, but why do I do this? I just keep putting the vlog off. But anyways, we went to the university bin. Of course, we didn't find anything, because it's the university bin, but we're going to 2 of 4 bins out of the month tomorrow. So, yeah, which is our normal bins. So, and then we'll be going to a few different ones. Anyways, yeah, I'll probably see you guys tomorrow. Alright, so it's the next day. We're going to make it our way over to our typical phone diving adventure spot in just about an hour and a half. So it should be all good. Carson's actually not coming anymore. Something came up, so. But that's all good. We'll still be good. And I'm still going to 2 more bins, so he can come pick up when he wants to. And, yeah, should be all good. We can go grab some stuff, and yeah, I'm hyped to go see what we can find, and let's do it. Yeah. So, little word of advice: don't sleep with Beats Flex headphones, because they'll eventually do this. Yep, never doing that again. What the f? Okay, that's pretty cool. Actual front-facing flash. That's pretty sweet. Anyways, that is going to do it for me in this video. I have to get to work on editing this because I have stuff going on this week. And I have to start next week's vlog. It's already Monday. So, yeah, we got work to do. But that's going to be it for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, you know what to do. Smash the thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button down below. Follow me on all my socials. You guys know what to do. It's all kinds of simple at this point. And, yeah. We're 10 weeks in, and we're going into week 11. About halfway through July. Right? Almost. Anyways, that's it for me. I'll go catch you guys in the next one. Peace.